Welcome back for another episode of Strive for 25. Joel Farrell here, and looking forward to sharing with you our guest
Welcome
today.
to another episode of the Strive for 25 podcast. And I've got an amazing guest today, Donato Callahan, and he's actually not that far from me here in St. Louis. So I'm excited to have him on here today. And he is the co-founder of BrightInvestors, which is a real estate mapping company. Anyway, I'll let you introduce yourself and let the clients, let the audience know where to find you as well.
Sounds good. Yeah, happy to be here. My name is Donato, from Iowa. Graduated as a high school valedictorian before I went to Boise State, where I went to school for biology and ended up winning one of the prestigious Department of Defense Smart Scholarship Awards. That led to some internships in Washington, D.C., and the time of freedom to spend a field semester in Western Montana, and got to volunteer for a month on a South African wildlife reserve during my junior year of school. After getting back from that, I ended up founding a real estate wholesaling company before quickly transitioning into some bigger projects, including purchasing a four-family house hack here in St. Louis the day of my 22nd birthday, and eventually getting into commercial multifamily syndication. So now I have 172 units in the Waco, Texas market, and about 15 million in AUM, assets under management, in our team's first 18 months. And right after I had done that, not to use any free time, I got connected with my co-founder, Drew McCluskey, and we spent the last year and a half building out BrightInvestor, which helps people invest with confidence anywhere in the US and find those diamond in the rough properties. And so now by day, I work for the Department of Defense, and I do multifamily investing and syndications on the side, and then also am working on BrightInvestor to bring it to launch at the end of this month in March 2023.
So what you're saying is you're a robot that doesn't sleep. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's essentially it. I got a software update running right now,
That's
minimizing my need for food next.
right. Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you on here because, this channel, this platform, it's all about, well, how does the everyday person get ahead of it? We see all the headlines about the billionaires and CEOs and whoever's got all these things going on, the entertainers who've got a million followers on Instagram. And, when you've got money, it's easy to make money in theory, right? So how does the everyday person get ahead? And, we've kind of really narrowed this down, like the everyday person who may be earlier on in their journey. If you're going to try to be able to save money, which then allows you to invest, right? Saving money, if you're just focused on cutting your budget, like that's only going to get you so far. The people that we're seeing to be able to get ahead and they're doing things in a creative way to be able to generate more income, to be able to invest and leverage other tools and resources to be able to get in the game. And you got a day job and then doing this stuff on the side. And that's kind of that profile that we're seeing more and more of. And so we're going to dig into that and how and why that's working for you. So you mentioned all these things that you've done in school, right? If you were to look back right now, all the things that you've gotten into and learned and experienced, and 170 plus units right now that you've got under management with your groups, what would you say is the absolute most important thing that you were able to experience or learn during school and the project, the different things that you were able to come across during school?
Sure. So I always approach school with one defining principle at the front of everything I did, and that was that it's a tool. And it's a tool that I had to learn how to pick up and use. And depending on what my goals were, whether that's to be like a doctor or an engineer or business or to go start my own business, whatever life I wanted to create, I knew wholeheartedly that it was my responsibility to pick up the tool, which was school, learn how to use it to build whatever I wanted to do. So I had a very central feeling of responsibility around that no one else is going to come take this class for me or make me take this test or continue to better myself via this education. So I knew that it was on me. And knowing that, like, no one's coming to save me, no one's coming to make the life that I want for me, definitely helped fulfill any goals that I had for school and helped me continue to move forward.
Okay, so you mentioned Iowa, DC, Montana. Let's start with that and dig a little bit deeper on that in terms of like
Yeah.
what those experiences were able to kind of help you get open doors into.
Yeah. So, growing up in Iowa, I was in the Quad Cities, and that's like Eastern Iowa. And when I was growing up there, it was fine. It was great. It was small. It was safe. It was comfortable. And as I talk to my parents nowadays, they always say that one of the best things about Iowa is that it's great for raising families. It's great for that low cost of living, and you can raise good kids and have really great life in Eastern Iowa. And so growing up, my whole plan from when I was very, very little, I remember back to kindergarten, was I'm gonna get good grades, I'm gonna go to a good school, I'm gonna have no debt, I'm gonna get a good job. And that was just ingrained in me over and over again, even more so than by myself than my family. Just that's what I'm going to do. That's the plan. That's where I'm going. And I had this intense pressure that I put on myself to perform at a high level academically because I had this belief and also fear of what could happen if I mess up this opportunity, if I don't get the best grades, if I remove potential opportunity from my future because I didn't put the work in now. So I hustled really hard to get through all my schooling and get solid A's. I ended up having solid A's from sixth grade all the way through 12th grade. So I think about 7 years straight of every quarter having A's and graduating as one of my high school's valedictorians. And that was all so that I knew that I was not leaving anything on the table for what I could create and grow. Um, when I finally graduated from school and my parents sat me down and said, "Hey, you did well in school. It's amazing. But here's how much money we have saved for you. And you can go anywhere you want. You can apply wherever you want, but this is what you have. And after that, it's on you. So make whatever decision you want, whether that's going big fancy school somewhere and taking on debt or going somewhere in state and working it out or somewhere in between. Here are the options. It's your life. Make the choice." And I had read so many horror stories about student debt, and I had very, very antagonistic feelings towards taking on any unnecessary debt, especially when I didn't have a solid income as an 18-year-old, and I didn't know what my job prospects were going to be because I was interested in biology. So I opted to go to Boise State University, and I went to Boise State in Idaho because I had spent maybe 5 minutes there on campus when I was there for a family vacation. I went, oh, that's nice. And when I applied, because of my grades, they gave me in-state tuition. They said, if you come here, we'll give you in-state tuition. And when I worked out the numbers, I was probably going to be able to get out without debt with maybe senior year left that I had to pay for. But I figured, hey, it's a pretty good risk reward ratio. I get to go out of state. I get to, start crafting my own path and forging ahead. So I took the leap, and I didn't know a single person. I didn't know how great the program was. I knew nothing about Boise State besides that my family had a couple friends there, and we'll see how it goes. Upon getting there, my first 3 months, I had won a fellowship to go study particulate matter for air quality. So studying how wildfires affect air quality and the hazardous effects it has on health. I had got a small scholarship for that. I was on the Honors College House Committee Board working with planning events. And I applied for the SMART Scholarship because I had been in the library one day and I starting off as an engineer, realized don't really want to do that. Other people are way more interested and way more engaged with engineering than I am. And if success means I'm 3D printing turbine blades and building robots with Arduino boards on the weekends, that's not me. So I need to switch my major now. So I switched to biology because I always had an interest in ecology and the environment and thought, well, engineering has a much more straightforward career path than biology does. So let me go online. And I literally looked up the words, how to not pay for school and the library. And I started looking for scholarships and I found one that was the Department of Defense Smart Scholarship. I'm like, well, that seems interesting. And I checked it out. And it's a scholarship program that essentially pits you against undergraduates, graduate students, and PhD candidates from across the nation and pretty much every STEM discipline there is. And it is a way for the Department of Defense to recruit more students to come work for the federal government as opposed to the private sector, because there's a litany of benefits to the private sector, and the Department of Defense found it difficult to recruit and retain talent. So they said, we're going to make the scholarship program, and what you have to do is get like 3 letters of recommendation, put in all the studies you've been a part of, your publications, your awards, your achievements. And granted, I've been in college for 3 months at this point in time. I have none of these things. So I was like, let's try it. And I put in for the scholarship. I got letters of recommendations from the people that I've been working with in the Honors College, in the air quality lab I was working at, and some advisors. whipped up everything together, my package in, and I applied. And the payoff, if you got it, was huge. If you're an undergraduate student, they'd pay you like $25,000 a year just in a salary to go to school. Plus, they pay for your entire tuition. Plus, you get a paid internship over the summer. Plus, you get a guaranteed job when you graduate. With the caveat being that for every year that you have the scholarship supporting you, so for me, it would have been my sophomore, junior, and senior year, I would have to work for the federal government one on a 1-to-1 payback ratio. So I'd have to work for the federal government for 3 years. And I thought, well, I'm going up against doctoral candidates across the entire US. Let's just see what happens. So I applied, and halfway through my freshman year of college, I got a notification saying, hey, you're in the top 50% of your major. Like, great. Okay. Round two, move forward. And it was the last week of school, finals week, that I got a notification that I did not win. Didn't get it. I was like, ah, all right, well, did my best. I tried. Let's move forward. Then about 3 days later, I'm sitting in my small college dorm in my footy pajamas, which are extremely comfortable. I got my feet up, watching a show, and I got the sudden itch to just check my email. And I got an email, and with one line, it said, congratulations, you've been awarded the Department of Defense Smart Scholarship. And that changed my life. I ended up finding out that I was one of 3 biology majors in the country to win the award that year. And that started a whirlwind of getting security clearances and polygraphs and flying to DC. And now I'm locked into my biology major. And now I have a guaranteed job when I get out of school. It's amazing. And all this work that I've been doing since I was literally 10 years old has paid off because the original goal was always get good grades, go to a good school, get out debt free, get a good job. So by the end of my freshman year of college, I did it. I'd done the thing. I did what my parents had wanted to strive for, what my grandparents strive for. I've done the thing. I'm 18 years old, and I'm thinking to myself, that was kind of easy. I could do more than this. This is not my potential. So I decided to keep going. And that's when I joined a fraternity my sophomore year, got into more social engagements, and I started planning out what do I want to do for the rest of my college career. And I decided, well, I'm going to go travel. I'm going to broaden my horizons and start tasting what life has to offer. So I found a field semester in Western Montana, where essentially you could get all of your upper division biology electives done by going to live in a homestead in the middle of nowhere and amidst the mountains with grizzly bear country, and you be meeting with hydrologists and ranchers and lumberjacks and paper mills and Native American water right lawyers on their reservation and the amazing community. So found it. I applied. I negotiated my scholarship program to pay for it. Clutch.
Nice. Nice.
And ended up I set it up. And then I remember when I applied, they're like, hey, this is great. You've applied over a year and a half in advance, so you're the first person on the list, but we'll keep you updated when the next times to come. And I'm like, great. Let me find something else to do. And I saw an advertisement for a trip to South Africa. I'm like, let me go do that. And I found the program called GVI, and I ended up taking the money that I've been saving because I saved all the money I made. I saved. My buddies now tell me that they think that I was one of the most well-off college kids they ever knew. But I'm not a big spender. Luxury brands didn't mean a lot to me. I was, paying for my food and my gym membership and a couple of things, but I just saved all that money. So I'm not a big spender. So I'm like, I'm going to go volunteer on a wildlife reserve in Limpopo, South Africa for a month and go do conservation work and help monitor wildlife. And I'll do that. So at the end of my sophomore year, after securing the job, I went, okay, I'm gonna spend the year working with my fraternity. And that summer, I got my first internship with the Department of Defense out in Washington, D.C., in Springfield area, or technically Virginia,
Yeah.
and spent 12 weeks interning with the DoD. And I got to go check out the CIA, FBI, meet some awesome people, do the Washington handshake where they slap business cards to keep it going, and meet some amazing people and do some awesome work. And immediately following that semester, I got to go to Western Montana for 10 weeks. I had days where I was laying in a hammock, watching the mountains go by or watching the clouds kind of roll over the mountains. And, at one point we had a grizzly bear run out in front of our cars. We had a mountain lion come by our cabin. We had, a bunch of elk coming by and hanging out. I got to, snorkel the rivers and check in wildlife, wild fish populations, and really get to know what it's like to live a different type of life in the sense that I'm over here in Boise, Idaho. I'm going to school, I'm doing all these things. I'm on this hustle path. And over here are people who've been working for the Forest Service for 30 years. They have their cabin, they get snowed in for 5 months a year. And I remember distinctly walking away from that experience, realizing that the type of life that you never thought possible, someone's living it right now. There's someone out here who spends their days hiking, eating good food, and playing with their dogs in rustic Montana. And there's someone in New York City who's a Wall Street banker who is, in a penthouse apartment. And both of those things fulfill those individual people. And so I walked away from that experience realizing that there's no limit on what people can choose to do. And you can choose to do anything. I can just pick up and move somewhere and start doing it. After that experience, that's when I immediately flew to South Africa for a month. And that was where I got a very close encounter with the fact that we're all human and nothing's guaranteed. And what we have here in the US is a privilege, not a right. It's something that we have to earn, it's something that we have to fight for, it's something we have to defend, and it's something that we need to appreciate, especially seeing the resources that we have compared to other places in the world. And on a much more personal level, when we're getting out of the Jeep and, a massive Cape buffalo steps out of the brush and there's 25 yards between us and the Cape buffalo and it charges us and it decides to stop about 10 yards away and we escape with our lives getting back in the Jeep, you realize that nothing's guaranteed. Death is out there. The march of time does not stop for anyone. And coupled with the fact that I came from Montana, I can see life is what you make of it, with the experiences in Africa showing me that nothing's guaranteed. If you want it, gotta go get it. I came back from that period of time, beginning of 2020, and I had just done my traveling and I was ready to finish out college, and that's when COVID hit. And just before COVID had hit, I had taken most of my money that I had been saving and I put it in the stock market because my parents were like, you got to get the stock market. Stock market's, it's where you invest your money, you do your 30, 40 years, you compound and you make money, you should invest it. And I went, okay. So I put it in there. Granted, my broker at the time wanted me to go into Apple and Lyft stock. And I decided, well, let me do my own research. I ended up picking up Nvidia. And I picked up Nvidia when it was like $50 a share before it went to like 350 per share post split. So I did well on that stock, and that was more luck than anything else. But I watched my portfolio tank.
Yeah.
Within like the first month of COVID.
Okay. So like that really happened March of 2020. So when did you put money in? Like what month? Like December, January?
January like 5th or 6th of 2020.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. It's perfect timing. So got in there and I'm like, oh yeah, stock market's great. I checked it every day. I'm up by like $150. Look at me go, killing it. And then all of a sudden my portfolio halves. Like, you tell me that this person in a country that I've never been to did something and now I lost half my net worth. I don't like that. And I said the same words that every entrepreneur or wealth building enthusiast has ever said. And there's got to be another way. It's got to be something that I can do to take more control over my own journey and wealth building process. And that's when I found real estate. It's around that time that I found a mastermind group called CCF with Ryan Dossie, and they talked about wholesaling real estate. I said, that sounds interesting. I'll give it a try. So the summer of 2020, I started a wholesaling company. And the entire year of my senior year of college, while people were working from home, I built the company. I paid for mailers, I did texting, I did filing, driving for dollars. I got a job with a property management company and with a maintenance coordinator so I could learn how to actually get into properties, what to look for, what to see. I made really good friends with one of the owners who was a realtor and they had another realty business. So whenever he'd sell someone a house, they would give him my contact information and they'd say, call Donato, he'll help you move in. And so I got to go meet more connections with people who were coming in, build up trust. And I would have people calling me every week or so saying, "Hey, just sold a house. Can you come help move us in?" I'm like, "Absolutely, I can do that." And through that same realtor connection, I got introduced to a woman who was buying Airbnbs remotely from California. And she needed someone to go to her Airbnbs, drive around the city of Boise, find furniture, get them furnished, and set up the entire Airbnb for her. So I did that. And I asked her what she was looking for, and I asked her questions and what she was interested in, why she was doing this, and learned about her, picked her brain on the strategy. While at the same time, I'm going to department stores with my phone taped to my chest, just showing her, "Do you like this couch? Do you like this couch? Do you like that plant?" And in that same year, I got my first wholesaling contract. I locked up a property for I think it was like just under $200,000, and I got it signed and I got it assigned to an end buyer for like a $25,000 fee. And it was like, finally, I'm doing it. I pour money into it. I'm going to make it happen. This is awesome. I spent all my waking hours doing this company. And about like a month before closing, I got a letter from the seller's lawyer saying they wanted out. And it was a situation where the seller was out of state and the person who's living in the home was their son who wasn't taking care of it. There's a lot of emotional stress there. And, I can, theorize all I want about why the seller wanted to back out. But end of the day, she wanted out. And I had to make a decision. Was I going to try to enforce the contract, or was I going to cut my losses and, let her out? And at the end of the day, I decided that I didn't feel like I had it in me to enforce his contract, even though legally there was a standing. Um, Emotionally, it just took too much of a toll on me. I just couldn't do it. So I let her out. I ended up burning that bridge with the end buyer because, I let the person out. And I decided that wholesaling wasn't going to quite be for me. Like, as far as my main squeeze, it's not quite for me. It works great for a lot of other people. And I know people who are so successful and they help a lot of people in tough situations. But that was just my first experience. I was like, that's not quite the taste I wanted to have. So I thought, why don't I start looking at what other people do? Where are they successful? And the more I researched, there was a pretty well walked path on where people started, where people ended up, or conversely, where people wish they had started. And by and large, the answer to that question was house hack. Get a house hack, start there. You're going to reduce your living costs. You're going to start building wealth for your mortgage pay down. You're going to be able to maybe even cash flow on top of it. Go house hack. Every person was like, I wish I'd done that. So I said, okay, I'll do that. So I spent, while I'm also doing the wholesaling company, spent about a year checking about 60 to 65 properties that had come up in anticipation of when I was going to be leaving Boise and moving to St. Louis. And eventually I found one that came online about May, June of when I graduated college. Came online about a Friday. Called an agent that I've been talking to for over a year at this point. He had been following up with me every month or two, which is awesome. And ended up finding this great fourplex that I'm in now and closed on it the day of my 22nd birthday after I graduated college. And during that time frame that I was closing down the wholesaling company, working on buying my fourplex, another individual in that mastermind that I'm no longer part of, but he had asked me if I'd ever thought of multifamily. He's like, you're doing wholesaling. Well, people typically do wholesaling. Maybe they do flips and they get into rentals. And they do rentals. Maybe they get into midterm or short-term rentals. And they get into larger complexes like 8 and 12 and 16 and 20 and 50 units. And maybe they do self-storage or maybe they do large multifamily syndications. But that seemed to be like the natural, more or less rule of thumb evolution of real estate. So he's like, have you thought of doing multifamily? And the more I looked into it, I'm like, well, if everybody's ending up doing big apartment complexes or big, syndications or big deals, the later end of their career, why can't I do that now and just skip the middle stuff? So I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So we found a 96 unit building in the city of St. Louis. And while I was graduating college, I wrote an offer on it, got it accepted, hired contractors, um, was doing financial due diligence on an underwriter, and The day that I graduated college, we road trip back to Iowa for 3 days, took forever. Got back home like 10 o'clock that last night. And by 5 a.m. the next morning, I was in a car driving to St. Louis to go walk this property. Met all my contractors, met the seller, been working on it for a couple months. And we get there and we have some questions about the seller and the financial information. Didn't end up matching what we had thought we had been told and what the information was we'd been provided. And at the end of the day, that deal ended up falling apart due to some financials on the seller's side. So I'd spent this money, I'd spent this time, but I'd learned a lot and I'd taken all this action to get to where I was. So I had graduated school, had this fourplex that I just closed and moved into. I was starting a new job, the Department of Defense. And my old landlord from college reached out and said, "Hey, I know you were working on multifamily stuff. I'm joining a multifamily mindset. The multifamily mindset's the name of the group. Joining their uh, coaching program or mentorship program. I've already paid for it, but I need a plus one. Do you have interest in, just going through the class and element education with me?" I was like, "Sure." So she attended this conference. She met like a dozen people, and we had this big Facebook group afterwards, and we started looking at apartment deals. And I took some of my experience and I brought it to the team. And the team ended up splitting into 6 and 6. And the people that those 6 people are who I'm working with today. And that was around August, September of 2021. And around that same point, I decided let's make multifamily happen. Let's do it. And ended up designing our inflow system for how we get properties all the way to when we offer on them, which I call phase one infrastructure. And in the next, oh geez, I want to say like 5 to 6 months, we looked at 96 different properties, maybe offered on a dozen, gotten a best and final like on four, and we got our first property around February-ish, February, March of 2022. And then we ended up
Okay.
closing on it in July of 2022. And I got to fly to I went to Vegas, got to speak on stage as a new student for the conference, got to fly to our Waco, Texas, do due diligence trips, meet some amazing people. And when we closed on it in July, it was like, hey, we did it. We did it. We doing it. And now our team's working on our next acquisition. I just got back from another conference for that same group in Orlando, got to get on stage again, got to meet some awesome, great people, and we're working on our next transaction right now. And it just kind of stair stepped our way from I'll try this to I'll try this to I'll try this, and not letting my inexperience or relative youth get in the way of building the life that I wanted to live. And all that's to say, I was doing the syndication, doing this deal, and around the same time that I started doing multifamily syndication, that August, September 2021 timeframe, I got connected with my co-founder, BrightInvestor, Drew McCluskey. And we just started talking because he was coming off internship with like Brandon Turner, and he'd been working with some really cool people doing syndications, and he wanted to get into syndication, and I was just getting into syndication. And we started having like a weekly or bi-weekly Zoom call, just saying like, "Hey, let's meet up." And all that started because I dropped a Facebook comment on one of his posts saying, "I'm looking to network with people." So I dropped a comment and said, "Hey, my name's Donato, love the chat." He reached out, started doing Zoom calls. Every week or so we get on, talk about syndication, exchange knowledge. And after like our fourth or fifth or sixth Zoom call, I told Drew I wanted to show you something. And I shared my screen with him, and it was one of the early prototypes of what eventually became BrightInvestor. It was a map that showed real estate data to help find those diamond in the rough properties and make sure your location's great. And I showed it to him, and he went, "Whoa, I'm working on the exact same thing." And he shared his screen, and he was doing the same thing on a national level. And we went, "Oh, we got to do something with this." So while we're doing syndications on one hand, on the other hand, with him, we raised our first seed capital, hired our development team, started our branding, and first day of 2022, we started development. So this entire year of 2022 that we just finished up, we've been developing BrightInvestor. I've been doing multifamily syndication, managing my fourplex, and then working for the Department of Defense by day, um, until we got to here today. But that's kind of the whole thing. I went off on a tangent there, but that's where we got to here today.
So, are you powered by Apple, Google, Microsoft? Who does your internal operating system?
Yeah, so Elon sent me a new OS
Okay,
recently that I
okay,
got running on.
nice, running on electric. Um, so I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
so you're going right. You're going and doing all these things. And in each of these different kind of projects, we're taking you into different places, right? What were your friends, your network? What were they saying to you along the way? Like,
Oh
what
man.
were their reactions? Who were you having fun? Were you having time to enjoy it a little bit?
Yeah, according to my family, they'd say no. They'd say I just work all the time. I specifically remember though my senior year, some buddies of my in my fraternity took us to Park City, Utah, where his family had a house. We were there for like a weekend, and buddies were in the in-home theater playing some games, and I was on my computer making a list of St. Louis contacts I wanted to introduce myself to in advance of buying my fourplex. I was calling blenders, I was calling brokers, I had a CRM going, and I was taking notes. And I remember one guy specifically walked by, and he's like, "Why are you doing this? Like, who showed you how to do this? What's the point? Why are you doing all this? Like, where do you get it from?" And that's when I had a bit of a realization moment, like, oh, I'm doing something different. Like other people are. I'm doing something that other people aren't doing, or don't know about, or don't have an interest in. I remember just telling him, it's like, why not? Why not? This is, let's try it. If everything I'm reading, everything I'm seeing is telling me that this is the way to build wealth and become free and achieve the life that you want to achieve, whatever that ends up being for you, why would I waste any time? Because for me, like I got a lot of value off of the simple hobbies I have, which is going to the gym. And overarching all this, I've had a long relationship with the gym. I went from like 220 to 130, from 130 to 260, back to 180 to 270. I do a lot of, bodybuilding, bulking, and cutting. And so going to the gym for 2 hours a day, that's all I needed. Going to the occasional movie, playing board games. I'm a big board game guy. Those hobbies and occasional things were really fun for me, and I like doing them. They're low cost. But beyond that, I really enjoy the work in the process, like getting to see something that I'm working towards get bigger and better, bigger, a little more refined, a little better, a little higher quality, and know that everything I'm pouring in is developing the future that I want. Oh, just put that right into my veins. That feeling is just amazing. So I had a lot of fun, but the process was the most fun for me because I knew that I was taking action.
So I love that, and not everybody is built the same way, right? Like me personally, I've been in the mortgage industry for a long time, since 2006, and this podcast and my Instagram channel all started in 2022. Like, and this never even entered my brain until last year. All just kind of happened. This platform is something that I've been thinking about. How can I help somebody accelerate their process of trying to be able to get ahead and build wealth? It's something I've been thinking about for a while. But this part of it, the execution of the delivery, is something I never even really thought about. And as I've gone down this path, I got my friends, my family, people in my network, right? But like, there was a part of me that like I wasn't letting out, or part of me that I wasn't, there wasn't anybody in my circle that had the same vision that I wanted. And once I started getting more active online and then connecting with other people, and like my Twitter following is like minimal. Like I have like 300 followers on Twitter, right? But I'm more active on Instagram, and I post every single day. But Twitter was really something where there were people engaging, people in similar positions that were trying to help people or get ahead, and post and help each other grow and all these things. And people reaching out and supportive, and kind of building my own little tribe of people that had somewhat of a similar goal. And I was like, oh, now I get it. I need to go build my own tribe of people that are going the same way. And it's like, I wasn't getting that in my little bitty local area, but like by having the access and kind of being able to be more active on social media, it's like, okay, Now I'm going to go find people that are doing something similar to me. And like one of the things that I did, like this industry and mortgage has been really rough this 2022, and now the amount of transactions has gone exponentially small. And so there's a lot of people struggling in our industry and people getting out of the industry and layoffs and all that stuff. And so I knew like what I was doing before wasn't going to work going forward. So I started this new path. And I built this habit, in June and July, where I started the Instagram channel. I was going to spend time every single day, even if it was just 2 minutes on this platform, and kind of dovetailing off of James Clear's Atomic Habits. And get up with the kids, get them ready to school. My wife and I help out with that, and then I go to work. And then by 5 o'clock, my wife's working; she's a counselor, and so I take over for the kids. It's dinner, it's playtime, it's bath, and then get them ready for night, and then I'm getting them down by 8:30. And it's like, as I'm getting them ready, I was like, I got to log in. I got big things to do. Like, and that anxiety and stress would just like crush me. And I had to figure out a way to be able to take the pressure off, because I had big goals, but I just was getting in my own way. And that book I was ready for that book. They really hit me, Atomic Habits. And so that 2 minute rule, if I just log in for 2 minutes, I'll set a timer. I'm going to log in for 2 minutes. And then if I just stop, that's good enough. And so that was something that helped me. So I went down that path and I built this habit. I kept going. And so after going through that process, then when I saw somebody on social media that had a low amount of followers, but was posting every single day like I was, it's like, I know what they're doing. I see you. I see you, bro. Or
Yep.
I see you. I see you, girl.
Kindred spirit. Yeah.
Right. And that was something that helped me really get that confirmation, is that, what I was doing, in a matter of time, it was just a matter of time. I was just gonna if I just keep going, it's just a matter of time that these results will start to show with the visible eye. And that's why I really want to talk, kind of dig in about this. Is like, you're saying that process was something that you got enjoyment out of. I know in my college days, like I played baseball, and we had fun, we partied and did all these things, and I had fun doing that. But like other people, have all their other kind of intermingling things that they can also find enjoyment from. And so, the process, right? Like most people are fixated on the results, and when you don't get the results, you lose confidence and you stop. But that process, if you can get that dopamine heat off the process, that's the thing that translates.
Oh yeah.
Now,
I mean, I meet so many people who are interested in doing maybe real estate or entrepreneurship or really any passion project or venture. And they're like, I'm going to do this for a month or 3 months, and then I'm going to get this. And I always approach it from a different way of, I'm just going to start building this thing and have fun doing it and enjoy it. And that means way more to me than actually paying off. I mean, oftentimes even my friends and family will tell you, uh, I'll be working on this thing and I'll finally hit the payoff, finally hit that payoff. And I'll go, oh, cool. Okay, let's keep going. Because that's it's a byproduct. It's not why I'm here. If I just this last week, I had 18-hour days, 2 or 3 days, because that's what it took. That's what I'm here doing. If I didn't love spending my time investing in my own creativity, building platforms, doing what really fulfills my spirit when it comes to building, the payoff would mean nothing, because I'd spent all this time doing it. It is the work that's put in, that hard day's labor, that creation, that makes it so much more worth it whenever I'm doing anything I'm working on.
so let's just take a second and dig into BrightInvestor. So, BrightInvestor is a byproduct of, yours and Drew's own kind of journey through the investing world, which again, I know a couple of people that were investing in real estate, their senior year in college. That is not a common thing, obviously, to be doing that. But that was the byproduct of your own journey, and successes and struggles. So what does BrightInvestor solve for the everyday person that's trying to get into real estate or learn more about real estate? What's the problem that you guys solve?
Yeah, so what we help people do is invest with confidence and find those diamonds in the rough, really. And way we do that is by visualizing trusted real estate data, because the golden rule of real estate is location. Where you buy matters so much. Every book, every article, everything you read about real estate will tell you that location is what you need to look for. Because there's a reason that a 2-bedroom, one house in, Michigan is $50,000 and a 2-bedroom, 1 bath in California is 1.2. The main difference, same floor plan, same everything, is where it's at. And where you're buying can affect so many components of your real estate experience, including the tenants that you're going to have, different maintenance on the property, your cash flow, your flood insurance. Everything that makes real estate successful or fail can be derived from your location. That's why people spend so much time on it. The hard part is knowing what's a good location and how to find it in a way that you can actually understand, in a way you can afford, in a way you can take action on. So if I'm in Boise and I'm trying to buy a house in St. Louis, like I was, I had to spend no less than 15 to 20 hours finding either reliable people, reliable websites, looking through all the different information they have, following sublinks, checking citations, compiling all the information, reading information and trends, what's going on in the market. And then I have to take that, memorize it well enough to where I can go apply it to a real world transaction. Not to mention any cost there might be with accessing data sets or not knowing if there's a data set available or failing to find a single data set. And so what we decided to do was solve that. And through our personal experience in real estate, through networking with other professionals, and through my experience as a geospatial analyst mapping things in day-to-day job, let's say, can we take the information that real active investors and prospective investors need to make informed decisions about a location and visualize it in an easy to understand way so they can constantly vet any property that comes their way? And the answer was yes, we can do that. And so we did. And what we have right now is you can take any property, any lead list, any off-market prospects, and upload it to our platform and overlay it with population growth, job growth, and jobs not only by overall but by industry. So we can tell you, is healthcare going up and is tech going down? We also have crime. So you can see not only crime risk by zip code, but it's awesome. We have the address specific pin by pin locations for what crimes are happening where, street by street. So I can drop my address, put my pin of the property I'm looking to buy, turn on crime and say, oh, there's been a violent crime here 3 weeks ago. And if I check my crime trends, crime is trending up in this area. Okay, something to know now. We also have school rankings and local businesses. So for our short-term rental folks who need to be in close proximity to a hospital and a Starbucks, we can showcase all that information. And we also have appreciation. So we track median and average sales prices for zip codes across the US and then calculate the appreciation year over year. So you can see how individual zip code is trending in anywhere in the US to say, okay, if I buy here, it's been trending up, it's been trending flat, or trending down. And you can stack all those layers on top of each other. So you're not just looking at, is it by good schools or is it by the businesses that I know my renters are going to want? I can see it's by good schools. It's good by businesses that attract type of lifestyle that renters want to have. It's in a highly appreciating area. Oh, did I forget rent? We also have rent trends and current rents. I can see it's in a low crime area. And I can see it's in a market that has increasing population and job industries that I want to see. And you can take all of that and see it in 5 minutes in one place, some of the most reputable, verified data vendors in the name of real estate.
That's
you can see I get excited about this. I love this so much. It's so exciting.
So, man, we're running short on time here, I think, for your schedule here. So,
I can have some more time if you do.
Okay. Because I'm curious on a couple of things. So I'm going to write this down so I don't forget. So, one, if you had this tool when you were searching for properties, and maybe for multifamilies, maybe it doesn't fit as accurately, but like, would that have changed things when you were searching on yourself earlier on? And then two, the state of the market right now, we've had this kind of crazy run of prices and also rates going up very fast. And now we're in this kind of unique time period right now. So what does somebody do right now in this market in terms of expectations, trends? So that's my second thing. The third thing is, and this is something that I've been talking about, kind of the purpose of my platform is, and I've talked about this a little bit, the average age of a first-time home buyer has gone from late 20s into mid 30s, like 35, 36.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and it part of that has to do with that. There's very, very low amount of transactions going on right now. So people that are able to buy are people that are more like step up buyers, and that first time home buyers kind of getting flushed out. And so I'm a real estate investor just like yourself. I'm passionate about it, and I believe in real estate as a tool for the everyday person to be able to get ahead and build wealth. And especially right now, the average person that's in their 20s not going to have the savings, maybe not have the income or credit to be able to get into the game, so to speak. Maybe that's what their belief is. Maybe that's a limiting belief. But what if somebody can figure out how to get in the game right now at 25, buy their first house? And you mentioned stair step, right? I use stair step in kind of a little bit of a different terminology. Stair step method is what we call buying a house, living in it for a couple of years, saving up, buying the next one as a primary, turn the old one to rental. If you can do that a couple of times. So let's say somebody does that, buys 4 properties over 8 years, 150, 250, 350, 450. Those are the price points that someone can purchase in. Well, they just built a multi-million-dollar portfolio in 8 years before that average first-time home buyers even getting into the game. And then those skills that they built and acquired to be able to get in the game at 25, maybe it's a side hustle, maybe it's a side business, maybe it's something else to be able to generate more income and save. Those skills translate to even, exponentially more as time goes on. So like getting in the game right now is just, it's a massive opportunity. So anyway, those are a couple of things I want to dig into. So the first thing, if you could rewind the clock and have this tool, what would that have done for you in terms of saving time and energy?
Oh my gosh, hours of research. Like when I was looking at St. Louis, I had to find, okay, did St. Louis even provide information that I need? And I would look online to say, okay, can I find crime anywhere? Okay, is that crime being updated often? What are local rents looking like? Okay, I'll go to apartments.com. I'll go to a couple, Zillow and see what the rent's looking like. I'm like, okay, this seems interesting, but I have this tab over here and I have this tab over here. Like, okay, can I trust Zillow data? I don't know. If you don't trust your iBuying platform, apparently. It didn't do so hot.
Right.
Okay. Then I also want to know, well, is it by nearby schools and nearby like a gym? I need to be able to buy, be like buying a house near a gym that I like to go to. Like, okay, well, I have some more tabs open for that. Like, okay, well, this is all data, and I don't really know where it's coming from. So then I started calling realtors, and I had asked them questions like, hey, because I was a novice, I didn't know. I could say, hey, is this a good area? What's it like over there? And realtors can't answer that question. It's against FHA. They can't answer, is this a good area? Would you want to live there? Would I want to live there? What's it like? They can't do that. Like, okay, so I'm stuck, hundreds of miles away. I can't get there. I'm operating off these sites that I think I can trust, but I don't know. I'm seeing all these different tabs. I can't compare the information. All of that took so much time, and even more so than that, it drained my confidence and it inhibited my ability to think I could do this because it just seemed like there were so many hurdles to actually being able to know what I needed to know to take action. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to keep track of. There's just so many different things to consider that can make or break my first investment. And on my first investment, I don't have the margin or the safety net to be able to fail. I need this first one to go well, like so many other first-time real estate investors, feel they need the first one to be a win so they can keep going.
Yep. So I want to dig in for 1 second there. So like you mentioned the rent data, apartments.com, Zillow, other things like that. So for your guys' data, where are you accessing the rent data, just for example?
So we get it from Rentometer and Mashvisor.
Okay.
Two of the biggest names. And cool. We get both their information. And this is something that was pinnacle to what we're doing with BrightInvestor. I value data diversity and understanding that the more sources that we can have that are highly reputable, we can, cross-reference them and make sure that we're getting a multifaceted view of what's happening. So we have both providers operating at different levels, some at the city level, some at the radius and zip code level. So our users can say, okay, this at the radius level, this is the rent I'm looking at, the zip level, this is the rent I'm looking at, and they're getting multiple data points from those verified vendors to make more informed choices. They can see that, okay, this is looking, comparable. I'm feeling more confident about what's going on here.
So those two examples are platforms that someone to get that they'd have to go pay some type of dollar amount to be able to get access to that data, I believe, right?
Yep. So you have to either join their platforms. You'd have to pay membership. Sometimes they have free stuff, and they have different stuff than us as well. And I definitely, as our vendors and our data partners, I love the platforms, and sometimes they're going to have stuff that we don't. And if that's what you want, that's great. You should go talk to them. But we have a very specific use case for a lot of this information, which is different than what they're doing. And what we really focus on is the information being presented in a way you can understand visually, the information you need to actually make a transaction happen, and then allowing you to compare and contrast all this information in one place.
Yeah, because each of the different categories of data that you're pulling from, I mean, some of it is paid information, some of it may be public information.
Oh yeah.
And your
Oh yeah.
platform, the way with the membership, it's all part of the one package that someone receives at the end of the day. So it just makes it simple, right?
Yeah. Even the most simple level, like, would you rather have 8 subscriptions or one? We can do
Love
that
it.
for you.
Love it.
We can make it one.
So I don't want to gloss over this. So just kind of recapping. So you've got your multifamily that you purchased in St. Louis. And for
Yep.
the audience that's from St. Louis, that's in St. Louis, I've got a couple of 4 families in Northampton, just southwest of Tower Grove Park, right?
Oh, nice.
So like, which direction are you at?
Yeah, I'm in Tower Grove South.
Cool.
I'm right there, Ben Park West, Tower Grove South area,
Cool.
right by Arsenal.
Oh yeah, cool. But then the multi complex that you purchased was in Waco, Texas, right?
That's correct. Yes, we do our investing in North and Central and Northwestern Texas.
Okay, so how did you get there from all the other places you were looking? How did you arrive in Texas?
Yeah, so with the multifamily team, what I do on the team is market research. So you asked earlier about the applications of what we're doing to both kind of residential real estate investors, but also to multifamily. It has applications to both. And what I was doing for markets was I need to be able to prove to our team, why are we investing in this city, this neighborhood, this zip code, this street, and why this property? And so I would talk to, if those who aren't familiar with multifamily syndication, you typically have a sponsor or someone who has a lot of experience and the high net worth to be able to sign a loan. So I'd be talking to them and I'd ask, what do you guys want to see when I present to you a property on the market? And they'd say, okay, I need to see this. Like, I need to see a presence of fast food restaurants and major commercial retailers. And I want to stay away from areas that have, businesses that could detract from resident quality of life. I want to be in a lower crime area. I want to have a lot of comps nearby. I want to have city that is a growing population in different diversified job industries. I'm just writing this down. Like, okay, this is gold. And so I would be going and I make this massive spreadsheet of 3 or 4 dozen cities in the state of Texas because we knew they had landlord-friendly laws and favorable tax codes. And I would go one by one and I'd find, okay, what's the population for this area? Okay, great. Is it going up or down? Okay, great. By how much? Okay, great. How many jobs are here? Okay, great. In what industries? Okay, great. And then I look at for each property that we're looking at, what businesses are in a couple mile radius? Okay, notate all of that. All right. What are rents looking back? What are the comps support for this area? For what type of floor plan? And I would take a look and notate all the different comps and what those are renting for in the area and say, all right, good to know. And then I'm looking at each individual city's trying to find a crime map that's updated and find, okay, well, is my property I'm looking at in this section or is it in this section? Is this going up or is it going down? Okay, maybe I'll call a local police department. And sometimes I would. And I'd call the police department and say, do you guys have any information for me? They go, you can go talk to Tim and IT. Like, okay, and go talk to Tim and try to get some information. And so I would make a list of massive spreadsheets that would take me routinely 5 hours at a time, every Saturday and Sunday, just going to work on it. Every new property we got, go to the coffee shop, work for 5 hours, put this information together, all just so that I feel confident presenting this deal to our team because I've done the due diligence work to understand why this is a good investment or why it's not. So I would do all of this work to put together this package and bring it to these sponsors to do this deal. And the reason that we ended up going to Texas was because the people that we were working with, our sponsors, they've done a ton of transactions in Texas. They have management companies they work with in Texas. They know contractors in Texas. And so it was my job to say, great, Texas is an area that we have vertical scalability because they know the people, we have the systems in place. So now my job is to go find the best places within Texas and the best neighborhoods, the best properties in those neighborhoods, in those cities, in this state that will yield the best returns and best possible project for our team to take down. And if I had had a tool like BrightInvestor, dozens, if not hundreds of hours over the course of this last year and a half, 2 years, money saved, time saved, confidence boosted, and the ability to get to action taking and actually closing a deal so much faster.
I love it. I love it. Okay. With that being said, right? Rates have been all over the place. Like our mortgage rates in December of 2021, we were locking rates in the low threes. And that earlier in the year, we were locking rates in the mid twos. It was crazy. And then 2022 happened. And, from that point into like May, we were in the mid fives, and then June, mid sixes. And like literally like the earth started stop spinning in our industry. Like the amount of applications just dropped off a cliff. And, the activity has dropped down. Confidence has dropped down. People, I think collectively, whether it be the media or the word on the street or whatever, are all saying, hey, there's probably going to be a big crash in prices. And at the end of the day, we haven't seen that. I mean, some markets have gone down. Some of the luxury higher prices have gone down.
They always do.
But from the middle of the road pack and below, there just isn't a lot of inventory out there. And so despite the amount of buyers being pushed out of the market in terms of just, being able to qualify with rates being higher, demand versus supply, it's still in somewhat of a balance because prices haven't gone down and there's no inventory. And so like when I see headlines of 2009 and I see a headline about foreclosures or bankruptcies or haven't done this much in 2009, well, like everything's relative because, first off, there were no foreclosures or evictions for however many years because of the moratoriums. Of course, if they're going on now, they're going to be higher than they were last year, the year before. But the amount of inventory that's on the market right now is about a third of or a fourth of what was going on in 2008, 2009. And so, and like when you look at the demographics from the major buyers, the household formations, and this is data that I'm pulling from MBS Highway, by the way, who provides this data and other people like that. But the amount of Gen Xers, I think in that time frame in the mid 2000s, that was that primary buyer. It was like 50 million, in terms of the Gen Xers in that the demographic. And right now, the millennials and Gen Z in that 20 to 30 age range, there's like 30 million more people in that demographic. So you top that with the amount of building that's going on. The amount of building that's going on now versus back then is, a large. The percentages are a lot lower now than they were back then. So like all that together, there's not a lot of inventory versus the demand, pent up demand. The people that are even thinking about buying that they want to buy down the road, maybe when rates go down the road. So I say that out loud because that's what I'm seeing from a data standpoint. I'm just curious, what's your outlook on real estate a year, 2, 5, 10 years and beyond?
Yeah, I completely agree with your assessment. First and foremost, as evident by my working at BrightInvestor, I believe that the real estate market isn't just your town. I believe it's the nation. And the sooner that people can see that real estate investing can occur on a national scale, the more opportunities open up for you. So it's not, and then this 3 block radius, what's the best property I can find? That's why you routinely see people even on social media or people who are more, private will be living in one state and investing in 3 others because that's where the best return is. And that's what I did. Originally, when I was going to graduate, I was going to go move to DC. And I knew I wanted to get into real estate. I knew I was interested in, lower cost of living. And I made a choice. And I said, hey, boss, I want to switch my location to St. Louis. I don't know anybody in St. Louis, but I know it's a better location for what I want to do. And I moved to a new city I'd never been to before because I recognized that it had a better opportunity for getting into that house hack that I was trying to save up for. So first and foremost, open up your eyes to the nation as your real estate market, as opposed to just what's right in front of you. Secondly, definitely agree as rates continue to increase, as supply is low, as the demographic of first-time and second-time home buyers continues to shift. I don't see the evidence for a massive price drop that appears to be looming. If you look at, recessions are typically looked at in hindsight, right? We've already seen, look at the stock market, significant decreases in some of our peaks from just 2022 and COVID-induced 2021. We've already had a decent slide down. The foreclosures are not occurring at the level they might have been in 2008 because lending practices are different. And something that I use to really summarize why I don't think we have too much of an issue is because if tomorrow, interest rates got cut in half, how many mortgage applications would you have this week? There'd be
I'm
so many people coming to you saying, "Oh, finally, yes," which tells me there is demand. It is not for a lack of interest in procuring more homes that people aren't buying. There is so many, I guess, potential home buyers out there that are just sitting, waiting, just hanging on and looking for that perfect opportunity to strike. It's everywhere because a lot of individuals lived through 2008 and they recognized, hey, if I'd had this cash saved up in advance of this downturn, I could have swooped up all these properties, or, oh, I could have done so well. And you have a significant portion of real estate investors and people who aren't real estate investors, even home buyers, who recognize, oh man, media saying this, there's fear in the air. I'm going to save up cash. I'm going to wait in the sidelines. The second that prices, let's go crazy. Let's say prices everywhere take a 10% drop, or mortgage rates everywhere take a 2-point drop. Gold rush, go in. It's done. We need to get a house right now. We need to apply. Come on, this is the time. Buy, buy, buy. I have
all right.
100%
Jim
confidence.
Cramer. All right, Jim Cramer. Keep it down over there, bro.
I have 100% confidence that that's what happened. Because again, that is where we're at with our demographics. That is where people are at when it comes to home buying. So I think we'll continue to see rates increase throughout the rest of 2023. I could see rates starting to ebb and more flatten out back into 2023. I don't think rate cuts are in the cards for us this coming year.
You're
Depending
talking
on,
about the Federal Reserve, right? You're not talking about
yeah,
mortgage rates. You're talking about the Federal Reserve and the Fed
I'm
funds rate.
talking Federal Reserve. Yep, talking Federal Reserve. I think that will continue to increase and start to flatline towards the end of 2023, depending on if our CPI numbers continue to stay sticky, to use that term, or continue to fall. And 2024, we'd start to see rates start to come back down. In the meantime, there are going to be certain markets that experience drawbacks in their most luxury, most class A pricing. And the markets that typically have a lower median home value, which usually is in Midwest or the Southeast, not always, but usually it's what typically happens in the Midwest. Those markets will continue to see either flat growth or very low increases in their home values or home increases in rent values. There's going to be opportunities where, because there is a fear on what could happen, there's going to be opportunity where people are wanting to sell their assets. People are going to want to get to different asset class. And if you can do your homework and know this is where I want to be, this is why, and be prepared for that opportunity, you'll find success.
So, from a geographic standpoint, right? You talked about, well, wherever you live, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to buy there. There's people buying real estate cross state lines. And, I've done that. I own a property in the state of Florida. And we had somebody on the podcast, a couple people on the podcast that have done that, including, Marcus Shira, who's a friend of mine who's in Hawaii. And that's an appreciation play, not a cash flow play out there. And he scaled into some, single families in the state of Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh from 5,000 miles away. You're seeing more and more stories like that. And like the tool that you guys are going to be presenting very soon. And the launch date is when again?
About late March right now. That's what we're planning for, late March.
Okay. So late March. And like, do you want to share maybe a top 5 markets or no? Like that you think you can be very general if you want to be general in terms of like states or whatever. Like, are there some places that you think could be opportunities where you're seeing the data stack up?
Yeah, so I can tell you specifically in multifamily for the apartment syndications where I like in Texas. I've been looking a lot at that recently. Um, I like specific for multifamily syndication is the central and northwestern Texas. Big fan of Waco, Lubbock, Amarillo, San Angelo, and I like San Antonio and Arlington. I like all of those areas. One, the population growth is increasing. Those areas have anywhere from like nearly 100,000 people to, I mean, Arlington, you're right there in the DFW area, to Lubbock, nearly, last time I checked, nearly 250,000 people. And that's still considered a secondary market compared to Dallas Fort Worth and other major metropolitan areas like Houston. Those all have not only consistent population growth around the at least approaching, if not much higher than 100,000 people, but they are trending in the positive directions. Over the last several, 5 to 10 years, they've continued to increase slowly but surely, and in some cases much more quickly, and they're projected to go much higher. Additionally, those markets have the job opportunities that are less susceptible to seasonal variation, like oil and gas. So, as anyone in that industry will tell you, as the barrels go over $100 a barrel, fantastic. It shoots down to $30 a barrel, or even negative, not so great. And so, when you track certain markets in Texas, you can check their employment will spike and crater within 1 year. And you can track that and overlay it with oil prices because that's a major employer. So those markets that I'm looking at have the resiliency and the fact that their job sector is buoyed by healthcare, government, hospitality, education, in some cases, manufacturing. And those jobs are from either Fortune 500 or large, well known companies putting in maybe Amazon fulfillment centers, or SpaceX outside of Waco, or other types of companies that are coming in with commitments to do millions of dollars in investments in warehouses, industrial spaces, with jobs that are paying $15 plus an hour. So I like not only the population that's coming, but the jobs as well, because we all know as their jobs are created, the people will come to find them. If you provide the opportunity for economic advancement, people will relocate and they will find the way to get there just to fulfill that job role. So I like those two things. In addition, looking into those inside of those markets, the price for the rent is lower than you're going to get in like maybe a more Dallas Fort Worth specifically. However, the price per door, which is what we use in commercial multifamily syndication, so price per unit of a complex or even median home value, is much lower than what you're going to have in a more hot market, I'll say, or much more congested market. So even though the rent's going to be lower, your cost of acquisition is so much lower as well. So those returns you're looking for, like your cash on cash, your ARR, your IRR, on the rental side, just saying your monthly cash flow and overall total return, you have a much better return in acquisition and profit during your hold period because you've been able to buy somewhere where the price per door is lower, but you know based on the market trends that in 5 to 10 years it's going to continue to increase and you're getting that natural appreciation on top of it. So I like those areas for all those reasons. And then intra market for those cities, there's of course going to be spots that are higher crime or lower crime, but depending on what software you use or what tools you use, you can find where those areas are. And then you can check to see what I really like to do is also look at the path of progress. And for each of those cities, I can tell you that if I'm in Waco and I know Baylor is towards the central northeast, central northeast of the city, right by the river, I want to be looking at properties that are in the south southwest as the city continues to expand that direction. And so what I'm looking for is, okay, if I'm looking for nationally recognized like a food retailer. Where's the Hardee's? Where's the Fuddruckers? Where's the Taco Bell? Where's the Chick-fil-A? Where are these large brands investing in new franchises in addition to like things like Dick's Sporting Goods and Top Golf and movie theaters? Where are those things expanding? Where are they building? I know in each of those cities what direction they're building in. So not only am I buying in a city that's doing really well, I have the capacity to buy in the direction the city's expanding into. So I'm buoyed by the fact that I'm going to be providing inventory via my acquisition in the section of the city that new renters already want to be in. And so for all those reasons, I like those cities that I mentioned earlier. I have a good idea of where the path of progress is. I can track investment by large Fortune 500 companies. I can see a very clear line of progress. Population and jobs going in the right way. The cost per door is lower than a primary market than it is in the secondary and tertiary market. And for multifamily syndication, that's where I'm focusing.
Okay, so for listeners that are out there listening to Donato, speak literally every single word that's in his brain, just getting it out. Like you remember every little detail, man. This is badass. I love talking about this stuff, and honestly, like I could go hours talking about this stuff. But where can the listeners find you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Donato_Callahan. Donato is Donato. I'm on Twitter at Don Callahan RE, and I'm on Facebook at Donato Callahan. And then when you go to any of my social medias, I have my link tree in there, which has links to all the podcasts I've been on, including this one soon, and my other socials.
Cool. So I have a couple of investors, this kind of unique St. Louis, Texas dynamic. I had one investor that's in St. Louis investing in Texas, and then another person in Texas investing in St. Louis. And these two people know each other. And so I'm just curious, when you look at the multifamily network opportunities in Texas and compare that to, say, St. Louis City, and compare, how would you contrast the opportunities in St. Louis versus, the area that you're investing in North Texas, Northwest
Sure.
Texas?
Sure. So I have actually looked in properties here in St. Louis, and we toured a 232 unit up in the northern St. Louis, out in the county, not maybe about a year ago, and we were looking at it.
Like
And
Florissant
I
or Hazelwood or
up in that area, yeah.
okay.
And what we were looking at is one, St. Louis is fighting against a lot of bad publicity. Now, as someone who lives, understands the market, who understands what's going on out here, St. Louis has had a tough time beating its reputation as an area that maybe harbors crime or isn't safe. And when you move here, especially, we're in South City, in the county especially, you recognize that that's not necessarily the case. And of course, like in any city, there are going to be areas that are more favorable or less favorable for a variety of conditions. But if you look in St. Louis County, the amount of suburban residential development absolutely buying up land, obliterating everyone's expectations, and continuing to grow, especially as you get out, like St. Charles, especially.
Yep.
There is so much growing, not only the residential side, but then also the commercial spaces to support them, family fun zones, movie theaters, new entertainment and shopping districts. People cannot get enough of St. Louis County. There's so much growth and development happening. And so I know people in my own multifamily mindset group who actively buy, apartment complexes in the county. Someone just did like a 70 or 80 unit not too long ago. I love what's going on out there. You also have some investment in more west, but in Missouri wineries that are also an attractive option for STRs, MTRs, and more vacation rentals. And on the south side of St. Louis, where I live and where my fourplex is, you also have a lot of development going on in the Tower Grove region. Not on my street right now, there's no less than 3 flips right now. People are continuing to see that as St. Louis grows, and it's slow, but it's growing. And St. Louis, I don't know if you're aware of this, is the U.S. Center for Agricultural Science PhDs and opportunities, which is a burgeoning field, especially as agriculture and food production becomes more and more critical as we have a growing population.
Right.
There's an opportunity to capitalize on the fact that St. Louis is routinely ranked in the top 10 cities for young entrepreneurs, young professionals. People want to move here. They like the lower cost of living. They like the multicultural opportunities that are evident via our restaurants and communities that we have here. All of that comes together to say St. Louis is one of those places that if you can find the right spot for you and the right opportunity, you are going to have the opportunity to continue to either invest in the county and see that growth as that urban sprawl continues to move westward, or in the city as the revitalization products continue and cities get reclaimed, and now you have chic boutiques and trendy new bars as young professionals flock to a low cost of living city. There is so many ways to make money in the city of St. Louis. And I like it. It's why I bought my fourplex here. If I didn't believe in what was going on here, I wouldn't have staked my claim. Because it's something I truly believe in when it comes to real estate. So you're not buying the property, you're buying everything around it too. I'm buying my neighbors, I'm buying their struggles, I'm buying how well they're doing, I'm buying how invested they are in their property. Because if they take care of theirs, mine's gonna look better. If they don't take care of it, mine's gonna look worse. I'm investing in the whole region around me and how it's going to affect my investment long term. So I would say I like it compared to Texas. The one reason that I'm not doing it more when it comes to commercial multifamily is that the team that we work with has more of their operations set up in Texas already. And so it'd be more reinventing the wheel to bring them to St. Louis. But that's not to say that I haven't looked in St. Louis and that there aren't people I know right now buying in St. Louis for multifamily apartments.
If you're going to kind of just throw out one data point that's different, bad or worse, doesn't matter what it is. Just what would you say is different in terms of just prices, rents, appreciation, property taxes? Like what's one major difference, or what's the difference comparing the two?
Appreciation for sure. Um, for sure appreciation, both natural and forced. Texas has the added benefit of being everywhere on in media and in news. Everyone wants Texas, 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 Texas. Companies moving there, people are moving there, and because of the high demand, I think DFW is going to plan to go to like 11 million people then like 2030. I think they're like 5 or 6 right now. So many people moving there, demand is so high that your natural appreciation continues to outrun the typically like 2 to 3% per year that people can account for. It can be much, much higher than that. And forced appreciation, when you're able to go in, so many people looking for housing in those areas, and you're able to take those maybe C minus assets, reposition them into a B, and you provide that housing in that path of progress, you're able to reclaim a lot of that value on your now boosted rents compared to where they were before. Whereas in St. Louis, it, like we talked about, has a reputation it's working against. It's also in the Midwest, which typically has enjoyed lower appreciation, but more consistent home values, lower median home values compared to other parts of the country. So people can get in here and have a higher cash flow situation and then be planning to say, I'm going to own this property for 20 years. It's going to appreciate a little bit here and there. Even if I do a massive remodel, it's not gonna, quadruple in value like it might in other areas, but you also typically have maybe lower maintenance and it's been more consistent that people have over time. So I would say the appreciations for me is the biggest difference in how I'm calculating my long-term holding strategy for either a large complex in Texas or a fourplex in St. Louis. It's just different.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's I love that. Just one more thing on the crime rate in St. Louis, which is obviously St. Louis gets compared to Detroit and whatnot. But at the end of the day, there's 2 point something, 7, 8 million in the metro area in St. Louis. And the actual city of St. Louis is pretty confined. There's only 240,000 people in actual St.
Mm-hmm.
Louis city. And the crime is pretty, centralized in a couple of different areas. So it does definitely get a bad rap
Mm-hmm.
based on the statistics and how they do this, the actual statistics. Okay. So the average person in their 20s, right? Like cost of living has gone up dramatically in the last few years as inflation has, gotten crazy. The savings rates are definitely going down, and especially in the last 12 months. I saw a stat recently, and these stats can sometimes have lagging data. So take this with a grain of salt. But I think like 48 to 52% of working Americans don't have more than $1,000 saved. So if you don't have money saved, right, like that means you're not investing and keeping up with inflation and those kind of things. So if you're going to talk to somebody, in your age range, let's just start there in your age range, what are you like, 24, 22?
I'm 23.
23. Okay. So give or take 5, 6 years up or down.
Sure.
And you wanted to pass on some ideas to really latch onto to be able to tackle someone else's their wealth building journey and getting ahead. And it's all about, taking control of your life and having control of your future. What advice would you give them in terms of specifically real estate?
Yes. What you want most is more important than what you want now. By and large, that is the defining principle that I could attribute most of my success to when it comes to internally. So when it comes to real estate, if you are on the younger end of the age bracket, you're in 18, this is the time to learn as much as possible about real estate, whether you're going right into the workforce, whether you're going to college. Look for the opportunities. People who are successful in real estate love talking about their success in real estate because they like passing the information on. They want to show other people that it's possible too. And if you're in this younger age bracket, people love to mentor you. They've typically done everything they want to do earning wise, and they can't wait to share the lessons. So use OPM, other people's money, and then use OPM, other people's mistakes. People who come before you will tell you everything to avoid and take it with a grain of salt. But if you talk to 100 people that each have been in real estate for 10 years and you get exactly what they wish they would have done, what worked well for them, you have 100 people's 10 years of experience, meaning you have 1,000 years of experience that you just got to talk to, and you're only 18 years old or 28 years old. Then understand that what you want most is more important than what you want now. And understand that you might want to live in a nice luxury apartment while you're going to college, or you might want to, spend extra money on that nice weekend out. Spending time investing in your education into real estate, what strategy specifically works for you, whether that's wholesaling, flipping, long-term rentals, or something else, what gets you to your goal. Two, what cuts can you make to your current spending situation to enable you to invest more of that money? And three, what income generating activities can you start participating in, whether that's like what I did and helping people move into their houses for, $150, or qualifying for other scholarships if you're at college that you can use to pocket that money. Did that twice. And putting that money away to get to your first transaction, which I, of course, am going to recommend a house hack. And then, assuming you have the freedom, move somewhere that has a housing market that you can afford a house hack in. Whether you want to do it like I did, the fourplex, and rent out the other units, or you want to buy a single family house or rent out the rooms. Pick yourself up, go find the opportunity, because the only one coming to do it for you is you. No one's going to buy the house for you, get the return set up, and start building you wealth. You have to do it. And you can either look back in 10 years and say, man, I wish I did that when I was younger. Or you can be the person in 10 years saying, man, I'm so glad I did that when I was younger, and be enjoying the fruits of your labor. So think about what you want most compared to what you want now. And if you do that for just a few years in your 20s, late teens, late 20s, you can become so much further ahead by making that sacrifice to where you no longer ever have to consider, man, I really wish that I had the time off work to go do this thing, or I wished I had the extra funds to go do this amazing hobby that I'm really passionate about. You don't have to worry about that because you already did the work years ago to provide for you right now. And it's going to keep providing for you. And another thing for people in your youth, pending no major accidents, you're going to be here a while. Life is longer than just your 20s. Expand your time horizon. Start thinking about your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s. It's going to be really nice to be able to get to retirement age, traditional retirement age, and have those properties set up. And no, man, oh man, am I sitting pretty. Recognize that you have time. Time is running out, but you have time to make these things happen, and you're going to need it because you're going to be around for a while.
My
So
goodness. Yeah,
prioritize.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Speaking of the time thing, like I as I've gotten further into my own real estate journey and seeing some things like cost segregation, which I didn't understand, like the whole light bulb just like blew up
Oh
my
yeah.
brain. Like,
Love me a cost seg.
so you're saying that I can have a W-2 job making money and spend a lot of time on real estate and then build up my portfolio and then like accelerate my depreciation and wipe out my tax liability on my W-2, which I couldn't do before because there's limits to it. Okay, I want more of it. Give me some more of it. Okay, what do I got to do to get more of it? I have to go generate more income. But anyway, that's for probably a different conversation. Time. Warren Buffett is one of the best investors of all time. And one of the things that I can kind of take away from reading about him and watching about him and is that he had this unique ability to be able to think. When he was 30 years old, he was thinking 30 years down the road. When he was 50 years old, he was thinking 30 years down the road. When he's 88 years old, now 92, he's still thinking 30 years down the road. And to have that foresight to think that far down the line when most people are thinking about today or tomorrow, definitely one of the things that's I think helped him with that perspective, which the same thing applies here. We're talking about real estate. What you just said, like thinking now about maybe when you're 30s, your 40s, your 50s and beyond, like, time when values go up and someone else is paying your mortgage down, like the numbers just add up to amazing numbers. The other thing I wanted to talk through here is you mentioned the side hustles and generating income. Are there any opportunities, specifically right here, right now, or people that or even your guys' company coming up? I mean, do you know any people out there in this industry that are looking or would want people to come in and maybe learn the ropes at a internship, quote unquote internship type of level and do kind of the legwork, bird dogging kind of things? Are there any things out there that you know of, or people looking for help?
Yeah, so I would say in the multifamily space, there's always people who are looking for operators who can do some of the grunt work. So when I got started, I would meet with someone who was doing deals, and I asked them, "What do you hate about what you're doing? What's the least favorite part of this transaction?" They go, "Oh, I don't want to review a rent roll. I don't want to review a T12. I don't want to have to break down an offering memorandum or an OM. I don't want to have to research the local market." I went, "Great, I'll go do that." And I would go take the information unpaid and go find it, summarize it, bring it to them and say, "Is this what you want?" And they'd say, "Yeah, that's cool, but change this, change this, change this, change this." Okay, great, do it. And over 3 or 4 or 5 rounds, I would custom curtail all reports directly to what they like to see. So if you're in the multifamily space, you're looking to do big transactions, if you find a sponsor who is still doing deals, find what part of the process they hate the most, whether that's underwriting or due diligence or capital raising. And if you can provide that feature or that function to them, more than likely they will GP or KP you into their next deal and get you a chunk of that acquisition fee so you can start making some money. On the
Okay.
other side,
Badass.
property man
Badass.
yeah. On the other side, property management companies, they're typically always looking for a maintenance coordinator or some type of leasing agent or someone to help with admin work. Like it's the one that I was working with. So I was able to call them up and say, "Hey, look, I was a college student. I've never done this before, but I have all this time. If you're looking for someone to go and do your move in and move out inspections, take the photos on your app, whether it's Appfolio or something like that, and just help you turn properties. I can do that for 10, $15 an hour." Great. Do you have any, if you could teach yourself handyman skills too, if you have some type of background, maybe light handyman work, maybe light electrical, even better. They'll hire you in a heartbeat. Um, those are two that come off the top of my mind most
Cool.
immediately. And otherwise, you can work with wholesalers. So the first ever real estate deal I did, the first one I ever closed was a virtual wholesaling deal when I was in Boise. And I knew someone in St. Louis. And this is crazy. Here, listen to this. I knew someone from my multifamily, from my, sorry, not my multifamily, from my other real estate mastermind I was in. I knew a guy who was wholesaling in St. Louis. And because I was looking to buy my house hack in St. Louis, I knew an agent. So one day I get a call from an agent. And he says, "Hey, I have a client who's looking to sell a house. I think it might work for a wholesale. Are you interested?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm interested." So there's this seller, and then there's an agent, and the agent contacts me. I say, "Hey, I don't have the capacity to do a transaction in St. Louis, but I know someone who does." So I call my contact in St. Louis and I say, "Hey, I got a wholesale or a flip. You want to take it down?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." I connect the two of them. He says, "Yeah, I'll let you know if anything comes of it." I'm like, "Great." I get a call from him. I'm like, "Hey, yeah, looks like we're going to take it down, but I'm actually going to give it to another wholesaler I know because I don't have the capacity for it." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So the seller has an agent. The agent knew me. I knew a wholesaler. The wholesaler knew another guy. That guy ends up buying the property, and I get sent a $2,000 check in the mail for 30 minutes worth of connecting people that I networked with. If you want to make money quickly in the same way that you want to make money quickly and do it at a higher per hour rate, networking, connecting people together, understanding that what this person has, this person needs, and facilitating those transactions with the right people can make you so much money so quickly. And that's literally the first transaction I ever did. I just happened to know the right people because I've been calling them, texting them, emailing them. Opportunity came up, send it down the pipeline, 2 grand, 30 minutes.
So I love this. The networking part is obviously been a major part of your journey and doing it in the right way. Um, are you seeing or have seen people do it maybe in a way that just doesn't work out correctly or approach it from the wrong mindset?
Yeah, networking with the short term in mind. So, like, I'm going to meet you this week so that you can give me a deal next week so that I can close in 2 weeks, or applying your own internal schedule or plan to this person's expertise. That typically doesn't work. And more important than anything, and this has been repeated to me by people who've done $400 million worth of multifamily assets, to people who are some of the biggest names, the smallest names, and even in personal life, people do business with who they like and they trust, even over the people who provide the best service. If someone can trust the operator or someone trusts you and you've built a relationship with them, they will continue to come to you time and time again for any service or transaction or good that they need because they know that you have their best interest in mind. And so for these people, I had to be networking with individuals for several months and just having consistent follow-up calls and checking in and knowing about how their kids are doing and how the baseball game went or how the trip went and getting to know people and actually liking them to the point where they had an opportunity, they kept me in mind. And I was able to help them capitalize on that opportunity. So go into this networking opportunity, anything that you are going to go do, or people are going to go meet, maybe it's a meetup or a conference, what have you. Understand that this is a long-term investment and they are investing in you as a person. And you need to be invested in them as a person. If you can do that, you'll have much greater success in networking than you would if you were going in explicitly for the tangible they'd be able to produce on a short timeline.
So adding value to somebody with the expectations of nothing short term is what you're saying, right?
Pretty much. Yeah. Keep the long, this is like everything, right? Keep the long term in mind. And it's typically, success happens when the opportunity meets preparation. And so that success of a 30-minute, $2,000 check came when the opportunity for a sale of a house came up and I did the preparation of 6 to 8 months of networking. Boom. It's those moments that the reward comes clear.
So when you've got this kind of path that you're forging, you're knocking down doors, you're making things happen, you're focused, and not everybody's like that, right? Not everybody has that same type of courage and belief in themselves and belief in their abilities, and just what that Tim Grover talks about: counting up to a deadline, not counting down to a deadline. This is my goal, and I'm not going to stop till I get there. Whereas most people will count down to a deadline, and then the deadline comes up, and it's like 4, 3, 2, 1, and you throw a shitty project over the table, and then you stop. And most people just stop.
Mm-hmm.
Having that mindset to keep going. Not everybody's got that. Some people can learn it, but not everyone's got it. So the network around you, now that you're kind of out of college, right? You're out of college, you got your DoD job, you got all these things you're doing. What kind of impact is that having on some of the people that have been in your network, family, friends, classmates along the way? Have you seen people around you maybe adjust the way that they look at things and do things differently based on kind of you leading the way in that regard?
Since I've started real estate, my parents have now purchased a rental down the street from them. They bought a rental from one of my parents' family friends who's moving to the area, and they're like, I'm going to buy this place. And they rented to her for a below market rate, but now they have a rental. And they bought it for a personal reason. Like anytime they have a family member or a friend that needs a place to stay, they can provide that service and they can do it for anyone they care about. One of my best friends from college, I've been talking to him and basically banging on his head with the hammer saying, you need to buy a house hack. And so at the end of this year, I'm helping him learn how to underwrite, get in contact with all the people that I know in the St. Louis area so that he can house hack. I've had people go on route. He's already done several wholesales and working on flips. And him and I talked together, and he's like, man, there's no one in my close circle who's doing, big apartment complexes. So now his sense of what's possible or his sense of like other his own age is increased, and he understands that it's possible there's no limit on the success I can have and the transaction sizes I can do because he's seen people like myself do it. And I can see him and go, wow, these amazing people at this high level. I understand the power of networking is so much more influential than I ever previously thought. Yeah, and so some people in my life have definitely started to see the light that real estate can provide and how, hey, there's other ways I can invest. And on the other hand, there are some people who definitely don't want to hear it. And that's probably been one of my biggest hurdles is when you can explain to someone, hey, there's a different way to do things. If you want to work your job in your W-2 and you love it, that's fantastic. But wouldn't it be nice to not have to rely upon that income? So if something ever happened, or if you wanted to walk away, you could. But wouldn't you like to have that little extra security or the opportunity to spend money doing things you want to do? when you communicate to them that there is another way, I've definitely had some pushback from some individuals who just choose not to see it that way or don't believe in the ability to provide what I say it can provide. And even hostility. Have had, people compare me to a criminal for being investing in real estate. And yeah, for sure.
You yourself investing in real
Yeah,
estate means you're a criminal.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, yep. I had someone compare me to Nixon and Watergate. This look, yeah, yep. This guy at work said, "Hey, uh, you're that's how he felt," and that's fine. That's what people are going to choose to believe. And at the end of the day, if you're going to be on a path of self-development and growth and education, there are going to be people around you who see your success and are going to say, I can do that too. And they're going to want to climb with you. And there are going to be others that are going to say, you know what, thanks for showing me that. It's not for me. And that's fine. And there are going to be even others still who choose to vilify what you're doing or be antagonistic towards your path for whatever reason. It could be internal, it could be external. Recognizing that on your path, if you can provide value to the ones who want value provided to them, you can treat people in the best way possible. And at the end of the night, go to bed with a clear conscience, then you are doing things in a way that will provide not only for you, but enrich the community around you in a way that you never feel like you're being forced to pull people up who don't want to get pulled. Instead, you're enriching those who want to enrich you in both spirit, financially, and in community.
Yeah. I love talking about this because, you know, on this channel, we talk about the comfort zone, like people in their equilibrium. And, when things get rough, things get tough, and maybe your car breaks down or whatever happens, and you borrow money and you work to be able to, you know, save back up money, cut things, and you get back to where you can pay the person back to fix your car. And all of a sudden you get back to the equilibrium. And it's like, well, then what does that person do? Do they keep doing those things that got them there, or do they stop? And most people probably stop, right? I mean, it's uncomfortable to be down here. That pushes you out of your comfort zone to get to equilibrium. And then, once you start going above that equilibrium to these higher levels of success, sometimes that can be just as uncomfortable as when you're down here. And so you kind of fall back into your old behaviors and whatnot. And so, yeah, I mean, someone has to be ready to receive the information, and maybe at a point in their life where their pain is greater for the situation than the pain of the change. And that's just kind of how it is probably. But like at the same time though, it doesn't mean that I shouldn't, or you shouldn't, or anybody else that's trying to help somebody shouldn't still talk about it or put it out there. Because I think from a collective subconscious, right? Like this collective subconscious of this country is get a job, get a 401k, retire at 60 or whatever. That's the basics, right? And well, that's great. But what if something happens to you? What if you want more than that? What if you want to be able to show your kids and your network and your family that I'm a badass and I can go set out a goal and do something and maybe inspire the next person? And there's another way. And so if more and more people were talking like that and thinking about that and putting it out there like that, maybe as a collective subconscious, you start to shift the way people look at this stuff, and shoot, in 10 years, 20 years, AI, I mean, how many jobs are going to be out there still compared to what there are now? There's going to be a shift in that way too. So how are we going to make ourselves more valuable? And those are the things that I think are something to think about too. I mean, you out there putting it out there with your friends. I just love to hear that. Okay, people in your life and people in your circle are seeing that. Like, well, not no offense to anybody, but like if he can do it, maybe I can do it. Like that's kind of my purpose too. Is like I'm just a regular Joe. Like, dude, I don't nothing special about me. I just work harder than the next person. That's it. And if I can maybe inspire the next person that if I can do it, you can do it, then, maybe that's, if that helps a couple of people, that's what it's all about. I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
No, completely agree. I mean, I remember when I was first getting into real estate and I was walking outside listening to Bigger Pockets podcasts, and people were like, oh man, just take consistent action. And I'm like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. Real estate's that's such a big thing. How do you do that? And I was trying to get over some of those, preconceptions I'd had. And just like everything else in my life, I decided to just give it a try, check it out. It really is the small, consistent action that allows you to grow and succeed the way you do. And it's that compounding of effort over time that allows you to get to where it is that you want to go. And when you have those people around you that see hey, he's showing up every day for 2 hours and just doing this real estate thing every day. As the years go by and as they have gone by, and I've gotten to where I am now, people are like, oh, okay. Well, I know you, and I remember when you were in middle school and the weirdo you were then, and I know you now. So I think I can do this too. And then people start asking questions. And then you say, hey, you can do this too. I support you. It's just a little bit of action that it takes every day. And then some of the biggest lessons I've had to learn as well is allowing people to walk their own path. Just because they can do it doesn't mean they're going to want to do it the way that you want to, the speed you want to do it, or in the way you want to do it. So if you truly believe in wealth building, maybe real estate investing, and creating a life that you want to live, provide people the tools and then get out of their way. Give them the encouragement and allow them to build the same way that you were allowed to build. Because you can't build it for them, or they'll never appreciate or know how to maintain it when you're gone.
So true. So true. So you grew up in Iowa, right? Been all over the
Mhm.
country, and now you've been in St. Louis for a couple of years. Do you have a favorite location for food? What's your favorite place here in St. Louis?
Oh man. I actually got a list on my phone of about 60 of my go-to spots. I love them. So I love Pagan Wine Bar. It's in the Central West End for like nice glass of wine. Like Brennan's. I have cigars and pipes. So I like going there, smoke a cigar on the club. I like Lorenzo's on the Hill. I'm a big fan of Salt and Smoke and the what am I thinking? Scottish Arms
Yep.
restaurant. Love the
Yep.
two of them. And occasionally I'll get down to the Polite Society. Another
Yeah.
good one.
Yep. Have you been to
So
Have you been to Pappy's?
I have been to Pappy's. Yeah, I've been to Pappy's.
Okay.
I've been there
Okay.
once though, only once. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, like me personally, like, I'm a cheese guy. So like, mac and cheese, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. But like all kinds of great food. If I want to get pasta, I'm always asking them to throw some white mozzarella cheese on top and bake that, and whether it be
Boom.
sticholi or lasagna or whatever. But there's a gentleman that I literally just saw on Saturday. His name's Michael Allen, and he's actually been on this podcast. He was actually the first episode of this podcast, and he's in the Coast Guard. Did some work with oh my God, Social Bank. No, I'm just blank on the name of it, but in the crypto space,
Mhm.
and did some coding for them. And he came in town, last summer, and we got a chance to eat at Pappy's, and it was just good
Mhm.
to be able to meet somebody face to face, like that, and just saw him again and whatnot. And that's the thing, kind of going back to, knocking down doors and no limits is like, I'm in St. Louis and I do mortgages across the country. I have relationships that I've built from the ground up 1,000 miles away or even beyond. And I got a chance to meet him and people in Hawaii and Florida and Texas and different places. And it's like, you know,
Mhm.
the only thing limiting you is maybe your own beliefs, right? That anything's possible when it comes to, getting things that you want. If you want that enough, if your why is strong enough, the how figures itself out. And, you know, in this kind of lane that you're in real estate, and you're investing in Texas, and you've got contacts in different places, what advice would you give to somebody kind of in that realm of how do you stay focused on focusing at this higher level from this vision that's strong and big and wide? How do you stay on this path like that?
Staying on the path has required sacrifice, and I don't want anyone to walk away from like this podcast thinking that you can have it all at the same time, especially when you're on this path. Typically you'll see people who have gotten to successful, maybe they'll go on social media and you can see, hey, what they're doing now is different than what they were doing then because they've gotten to that level of success and it changes. And so there have been sacrifices. That is, I don't go out all the time, or I don't go spend money on weekends away, or I don't have a lot of, creature comforts, you know. So when it comes to focus, I believe so strongly in that what I'm building towards, that is the time and financial independence to be able to pursue any activity, place, community, or person that I want to without having to ever consider time and money as factors motivates me so much that I don't have to really reconsider or hype myself up on why it is that I'm doing what I'm doing. I set that belief. I can see it so clearly in the future of what my life is going to be and why I want that thing, that when I compare those, aspirations to what I'm doing now, or temporary distraction or convenience, it's never even a decision that I have to make. But at the same time, understanding that I can't work a full-time job and get 8 hours of sleep and do multifamily syndication and be the co-founder of a software company and continue to do my bodybuilding and manage a fourplex to the best of my ability at 100% every single day. And so you hear a lot like balance is key, and it is. But understanding that as you're building this journey, some things are going to get more attention and more dedication at others than others do, and it's going to ebb and flow. And if you try to do all things at 100% all the time, you will burn out. And so one of the things that's been crucial to my ability to focus is allowing myself to not be at 100% in all things at all times, and saying, you know what, I am going to do fewer hours on this activity so I can do more on this activity. Allowing myself to be human, allowing myself to make mistakes, allowing myself to set a plan and be okay when I don't fulfill it in its entirety or on my predetermined schedule, but having absolute certainty and that the destination that I'm driving towards is where I want to be, and that the path and the progress that I'm making to get to that destination fulfill me as much, if not even more, than the destination.
So the ability to allow not to have to give, or okay to give 100%, to be able to be okay with not 100% on everything, is that something that you had to learn along the way, or
Oh
some?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh
Can you share
yeah.
more about like how or why, when that happened, that really hit you hard?
Oh man. Wasn't even until recently, like in the last year. I always had a very innate sense of if I do not give my perfect 100% best on this thing, I have, I failed, I didn't do my best, I, left things on the table, and I'm not fulfilling my potential. And so for a very long time, simply fulfilling my potential was the only kind of motivating factor I needed, where I know I can do more, ergo, I will do more. And that led to me pouring out of my cup so many different cups and nothing left for myself, feeling drained, feeling like I was building all these things that I wasn't really going to truly enjoy, not feeling appreciated. And so it took time for me to be able to do a lot of, inner looking and soul searching and talking to people about it, to understand that if I'm constantly pouring out of my cup into all these different things and never refreshing my own, I'm not going to enjoy the progress, and I'm not going to enjoy the destination as much, because I'll arrive more or less a husk of my true authentic self, because I'm not revitalizing myself. So it's been a journey the last maybe 18 to 24 months of understanding that just because I'm not giving 100% in everything all the time doesn't mean that I'm a failure, doesn't mean that I can't. It just means that my attention has to go to this thing for now. And other things still important to me, and I'm going to get to it when I have this time, and it's on my priority list, but it's just not the number one right now. And that's okay, because as much as it would be great if we were all this rental property pumping out machines and we could check in and check out and knock out everything, we are all people. There are human connections, there are experiences to enjoy. There are so many parts of life that are not worth missing and are going to have to adjust our personal schedules for, because the purpose of life is to live it, right? Not just prepare for it the whole time you're on earth, right? You want to actually build a life and then live the life too.
And that kind of goes back to, people say enjoy the process, right? Well, wow. Well, how do I do that? How do I actually change the way that I look at things and start to enjoy the process? Like, um, it takes time and conversations, like you said before, of getting help from people. Um, any other advice you want to give about, okay, learning to love the process, not the result? That kind of not being able to really focus on the result. And any advice, any more tips on that?
Yeah, so be okay with walking alone. There are going to be people who support you. And there are going to be people who are like, hey, that's good for you. And there are going to be people who maybe don't support you. And when you have that type of dedication towards where you're going, being okay with walking alone will be crucial. It doesn't mean you're going to be by yourself forever. It doesn't mean that there aren't like, kindred spirits and like minds that you can connect with. And I recommend people do connect with them. Having those accountability partners is crucial. But believing in yourself, the sense that just because I'm walking alone now doesn't mean I'm wrong, doesn't mean I'm on the wrong path. It just means that I'm charting the way for someone else. At some point, someone's going to find my footsteps and they're going to see the path I walked, and I'll be able to walk with them. Or they're going to have someone that'll be walking with them because the path's a little bit brighter, a little bit easier to tread. So just because you're the only person doing it doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong. It just means it's new for your group. And the great part about our world and our society is that you're probably not the first person to ever do it. So even if you're the person walking alone in your community right now, you go online, there's probably dozens of people who are trying to do or have already done what it is you're trying to do. And you have the capacity to reach out and say, I think what you're doing is amazing. Can I learn from you? Or how can I educate myself and have that support system? We're more connected than ever. This is the time to use that connection to build a network that will carry you in those moments where you're feeling those moments of self-doubt.
Is there something that's been on your mind for a while that you haven't had the time for in your schedule type of thing that you know that you should be doing or want to do that you'll do and that's going to actually have a massive amount of payoff? It's just a matter of getting the time to do it. Is there something that's on your schedule that you want to be able to dig into more of down the road?
Yeah, for me, that's been the gym. So I have been a very avid gym goer since I was like 16, and I wanted to, lose weight for this a month trip I was taking to California, and it was all hiking and backpacking and biking, and you need to be physically fit for it. And so in a 9 month span, I went from 220 to 130, and then from over the next 2 years, from my junior year of high school to my freshman year of college, I went from 130 to 260 and just bulking, and then back down to 180, and then back up to 260 and down to 230. And I would do 2 days in the gym for a period of time. I would spend 3 or 4 or 5 hours in the gym every day. And I love it. I love it so much. And this last year, really like last 6 months or so, I've been pouring so much into BrightInvestor and my multifamily and my job that I'm maybe in the gym 1 or 2 or 3 times a week for like an hour and a half. And that was the big issue I had to be okay with, in the sense that I'm still healthy, I'm still eating my same diet, and I'm still maintaining my weight. I'm just not, improving and getting better right now. I'm just maintaining the status quo. And I had to be okay with that and say that the reason that I'm not doing this thing is because of this. And I'm not going backwards. I'm not, being unhealthy. I'm just not progressing at the pace I would have liked to be. And I had to be fine with that and knowing that giving 100% in this thing is going to be detracting from these things. And these things take priority right now while I'm building them. But as I continue to go into launch month with BrightInvestor and we go into the future, getting back into my regular schedule for the gym is very high on my list of priorities to get back in.
So back to BrightInvestor, if somebody wanted to check out some preliminary information online, where would they go?
You can go to our website at www.brightinvestor.com, and we're actually have our exclusive pre-launch waitlist up and running. So if you click the join the wait list or join the pre-launch buttons on our website, you can drop your email address and you'll get a free gift. You will also get exclusive news and notifications of when we do launch and updates about the platform as we get ready to show it with the world.
I love it. I love it. So what one last thing is we're running out of time here. So we didn't really dig too much into your day job at the DoD. I mean, you worked on some pretty classified stuff, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Some of the highest levels, yes.
And so the campus is are you still off of Broadway, or did they move you? Is it the new facility open yet? No.
New facility is not open yet. New facilities in
Okay.
North City that'll be open like 2025, 2026.
Okay. Okay. So you're still off. Am I able to say that out loud? Are you able to say that out loud where your guys' facility is? Is that allowed? Can we do that?
Yeah, it's on Google Maps. It's very clear, yeah, where we're at. Yeah, it's you can take Arsenal actually straight to the front gate, right by the water. But yeah, we're right there.
Dude, so this is probably like 7 years ago. I was doing a mortgage for a gentleman who worked there. And honestly, I lived in St. Louis my entire life. I didn't know what it was or existed. And I worked with clients in the military and the government in the DC area for since 2012, really. And I'm surprised that I wasn't aware of it before then. So this client gives me his address to his work address to pass on some documents. And I show up there and he's like, yeah, go in there and there'll be people at the front, just tell them why you're there and blah, 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 blah. And like I drive in past the front gate and I went too far. And all of a sudden, like all these guns like came out of nowhere, like boom, like at my face, like, oh, Sugar Plum Fairy. What did I just do? And
Yeah.
so we got the message relayed. He comes out, we get the documents, and they're like, pretty much get the hell out of here, bro. Don't ever come back. But yeah, that was my first experience with Nat Geo, so to speak. But yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's yeah, go for it.
so what do you do there in general? So you're in coding. You are in. What are you doing there exactly?
So I can give some high level overview, but what we do there is we're pretty much the eyes of the nation. So we deal with satellites and mapping and images and supporting the warfighter, aiding humanitarian crises, and using imagery to help policymakers make decisions and take action. So one of our famed examples is like when Hurricane Katrina comes by. We would take images of areas that maybe like in the island nations that are on the way in the path of destruction. We can help facilitate humanitarian aid by taking a picture and saying, okay, here's the road network before, and here's the road network after. And we can see where utilities are down, what roads are blocked, and which towns are cut off from evacuation or aid. So we can now prioritize where it is that we need to send our emergency evac and response teams first. Or if we're going to have something like I think gotta check my mind here, do the Rolodex of things, fun stuff. Or like warfighter, so supporting operations and understanding this is where we need to go, this is why we need to do it, what's going on in the area, what buildings are there, and making sure that our guys on the ground have the information they need to go on operations and missions effectively. All things that our agency does.
Yeah, I know we want to stay on a high level on that. One more question on top of that, because I work with a lot of clients in the mortgage industry in the DC market. A lot of that clientele are government workers working for certain agencies or even in the private sector, but especially the ones that work in the government. The level of skills that they have and whatever their specific job is, a lot of those skills actually translate in the open market, whether it be in consulting or a side hustle or a side business or whatnot. And I think more and more people are starting to kind of spend more time kind of building their craft outside in the private market. From a mindset standpoint, we probably don't want to go into specifics, but doing that job that you do, right now with the DoD, what parts of the mindset maybe translate into these other things that you're doing in terms of building the businesses and the real estate? What's up from just a mindset standpoint? What transfers over?
Yeah, I mean, government does operate on a very different time scale than maybe private enterprise does. And so government, they're always thinking, okay, what is this initiative going to look like in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years? And when we're looking at projects to take on or where we're going to invest certain resources and certain initiatives, they're looking at a much longer time scale. And so that has translated pretty well into business where I'm not looking at a quarter by quarter basis. I'm looking at what's going on way down the time horizon that I can prepare for now. It's also shown me and translated over. A lot of people in government are pretty conservative, not like politically leaning, but conservative as not huge risk takers, and they like to plan things out. They're pretty analytical, and they have a very set process for how they intake and output information. They have steps they want to take over and over again, so they can get very repeatable. And that has translated well into business where I can take the systems that we build at DoD and to get the repeatable workflow and implement it in other players of my business where I can say, if I can notate this, write it down, pour the documentation process for how to do this thing, then it gets way more time efficient to do it again and again and again. And that's a big thing in the DoD is they write everything down, everything's documented. We know exactly how to do something because somebody wrote the step-by-step process maybe a year or two ago. And I can always go cross-reference and check my own notes and check previous comparables to understand, oh, this is what worked then. This is how I do this. Great. So that's helped a lot too.
Love it. Okay. So last thing here. So from a big goal standpoint, are you one, because again, we kind of talked about that a little bit ago. Your goal, your vision is so strong, like nothing's gonna deviate you from that goal. You're thinking long term versus necessarily the short term. Are you one that likes to talk about those big goals or keep them to yourself until they become a reality? Where do you fall on that side of the things?
Yeah. So I will typically write big goals like on my whiteboard on my wall, and I will tell people about it if they ask. But I don't always go out and on social media and say I'm going to do this big thing, and you're going to watch me do it. I typically will achieve them, and then go tell people about them, or I'll say, hey, here's what I'm planning. I'll let you guys know when I get it done, and that's where I go. But for this point in my life, definitely, I have no problem sharing the big goals I'm going after, and I'm just not going to be telling people about that every single day. I'm going to say, here's what I'm doing. I'll give you a call when I've done it. And I go off and I go in the dark and I get it done. So
Okay.
for goals right now, launching BrightInvestor this month. And my goal is to build a community of Bright investors, 100,000 strong in the next 5 to 7 years. That's what I
So
want.
so 100,000 in 5 years, and that community, how does that look? Is that a Discord? Is it a Facebook community? Is it just a newsletter? What does that mean in terms of what your actual goal
Yeah,
is? What
that is
wants to look like?
100,000. Yeah, it's 100,000 subscribers to the Bright Investor software in 5 years.
Okay.
100,000 people taking action, investing in real estate, buying the better locations, finding those diamonds in the rough.
Okay. Is there a statistic out there that says how many people in this country are actual real estate investors? People with, a one rental, let alone just a house, but just one rental. Is that data even? Does that data exist? I don't even know.
There are estimates that are older, but not like a active tracked number. So we have a couple of comps we work off of. So, for example, Bigger Pockets. Bigger Pockets has like 2.6 million people on their platform. And some of those are free. Some people are doing research. And I typically like to operate off the 80-20 rule. So if even 20% of those people are actively doing transactions and are actually doing real estate, that's 520,000 people that are doing real estate in the US. And if I can get 20% of them to join Bright Investor, great. And we're looking at a pretty good spot. There are a lot of statistics on realtors, and realtors, I think they're around, oh, geez, I want to say 1.5 million or plus realtors in the US. And even there, you take 20% of them. Okay, great. There's 300,000 realtors. Awesome. And 20% of them are doing business. Okay, great. 60,000 realtors that might get value out of this platform by being able to answer questions for their clients or send their clients to this platform. So not only are investors getting value out of it, but prospective home buyers are too, as we continue to add new features and new data and keep making the platform better and better. So there are rough estimates. We have goals to hit 100,000, maybe even way more. And that's what I'm shooting for.
I love it. I love it. Because if you're a realtor out there and you're not building your own portfolio of real estate, it's literally a missed opportunity. Because the kind of going back to the cost seg stuff, like if you're a realtor, by default, you are allowed to do cost segregation, which allows you to accelerate depreciation on your rentals and increase your bottom line in terms of what's being taxed. So every realtor should be be a real estate investor. And then if you're a real estate investor, you might as well think about this product or at least look at the product when it's available. And at the end of the day, this is the example that I always use to talk to somebody who's not into real estate. You put 10 grand into the stock market, you get a great return. You get 10% in a year. That's $1,000. Or you could take the $10,000 and put it into real estate, buy a house, say it's your primary residence, put 3% down. And let's say you get 3% of appreciation in that first year. When I ask this question to a crowd, it's like, well, $300, 1,000, it's 9,000, 3% on 300,000. That's 9,000 in appreciation. So 9,000 versus 1,000 in terms of the return on stock. it's a massive difference. You're scaling your dollar, leveraging your dollar in a way that you can't do in other markets. And so I don't know. I'm real estate. So I'm on the list of pre people. So I'm looking forward to the
Appreciate it.
launch later March. Let's say that we have you back on, sometime in the future, end of 23 or whenever. What's another midterm goal that you have out there?
Want to close one, if not two more transactions in the commercial multifamily space of 100 units or plus. I think we have the capacity to do it this year. I'd like to get us around at least 200 units, if not closer to 350 this year. Probably run that. I'm shooting for another 30 million in assets taken down. And my other big goal is to help my best friend buy his first house plot, his first house hack or fourplex. I want him to buy that this year, get him on his journey.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then those are the things that are really tracking for me. As that's if I can end this year and we've done those things, oh man, am I gonna be a lucky guy and to do this fun stuff?
I love it. I love it. I love the goals. I love the dedication. I love the focus. And at the end of the day, the ability to like realize, hey, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to reach all your goals. You're not going to be able to be perfect. Sometimes it just takes the grace and the effort, and just realize that you're doing the work every single day. And just the work alone is going to get you to the next level. I have one more question for you. I'm sorry to ask this, but there's one more question for you. Is there something that you did on this journey that opened up a door that like completely blew your mind, never even imagined, even thinking about it? And like you got there and like, oh crap, this thing happened. I had no idea this was even possible.
I'd say there's a couple on this whole journey. One, applying for the Smart Scholarship was a massive turning point, and getting to me to where I not only had the financial backing, but the reduction in stress and the I guess infusion of time into my schedule, and allow me to achieve that goal that I've been working for since I was like 10 years old, right? And finally seeing that pay off when I was 18 or 19. Like, okay, I did that. What's next? That was definitely a huge pivotal moment that allowed me to go on to the next things I ended up doing. The next, joining my first mindset or mastermind group. I remember sitting there like June of 2020, June of 2020. Yeah, wait, June 2020. Yep. And sitting at the dining room table and seeing the press pay now for my $1,000 a month, mastermind, going, oh my gosh, can I afford this? And going back and forth, back and forth. And I went, screw it, let's do it. Hitting that button got me to here. That button clicking that got me into wholesaling, connected to multifamily, to multifamily syndication, through to house hack. Just clicking that button and starting to start did it for me to be able to do it. That was a massive one.
Damn.
Those two things. And then commenting on Drew's Facebook post when he said, hey, I'm looking to network with people and hit me up. And there were like 50 different people who had commented. And I was like, am I really going to drop my comment on this guy? And I'm like, I don't know him. He's just like looking for people to network with, and making the decision to say, yeah, why not? Hey man, let's connect. An entire business launched from that one Facebook comment, that one mastermind joining, that one scholarship that I decided to apply for. Those are three massive moments that have truly defined where I'm at today.
And I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm glad I asked that question, because you just never know. When you go do something that work, it means something. It's not lost. Even if it fails that work, it means something. It changes the way you look at things. It changes the way you believe in yourself on taking a chance. So I just love to spend the time on this type of stuff, talking about things that people are doing that, like other people in that age range, especially, may not even believe it's possible, but anything is possible if you want it enough. And so love it. We're going to have to catch back up very soon. Donato, thanks again for making time. This is actually the longest podcast that I've had. So
really,
yeah, I love it.
Wow.
Yeah, this is good stuff, man. A lot to unpack here. So hopefully people who have gotten this far on this 2-hour interview, I hope it's been helpful. Okay. Do you want to test something out real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
If you've gotten this far on this podcast, go to Donato's page, follow him, and like him, and add in a comment, Smoky Mountains.
Smoky Mountains. Love it.
Smoky Mountains. If you get this far on this podcast at any point in your life, go to his page and type in Smoky Mountains and not because you're a data guy. So we're going to be able to track this because they're going to be able to put it on different posts, probably, and maybe different posts. So I need you to count it. I need you to count.
Definitely. I can get the analytics in and I can start to keeping track of when and where and who.
Okay.
Can do.
All right. Well, if we get one person that got this far, that'd be badass. So,
heck yeah.
Smoky
That'd be
Mountains
awesome.
On Donato's Instagram. We're talking Instagram. That's it. What's the handle again? What's the handle again?
At Donato_Callahan.
All right, man. Good talking to you. We'll talk soon.
You too. Talk soon.
Bye.